Today, we talk about the politics of the left and the damage the Democrats have done to our state.
The failure of the Great Society was it herded all these people who are coming in from the Depression-era countryside. It herded them into the cities. It says, hey, we're going to build projects for you. We're going to give you a dole. And then the next step was, okay, now you got these great schools. Now we're going to give you trades. You have all this industry around you to go to work. Now what the Democrats say is, oh, it's because the racist white people wouldn't give them a job. That's not the case at all.
We talk about how the left has broken our cities.
It's generation after generation after generation of welfare, of bad schools, of no jobs, of bad neighborhoods, and it's all done by design.
And about the benefits of learning a trade and how it can make America great.
Once you become a tradesman, once you learn a trade, for example, whether it's welding, whether it's auto mechanic, no matter whether it's cutting people's hair, you are now portable. You don't have to be stuck where you are. You can now take your trade and go to the other side of the country or the other side of the world, for that matter.
Okay, so we have a fantastic podcast today. For those of you who've been watching our podcast and our growing audience, Jim Baldini has done some incredible work researching the state of finances in the state of New Jersey. What this bears interest in is we're looking at a time bomb. We're looking at a state that is consistently rated last by by think tanks that look at finance and look at accounting. And the way the finances of this state have been mismanaged by none other than a powerful investment banker turned Democratic Party treasurer turned governor of New Jersey is epically ruinous. It's almost apocalyptic. So the question is, at the pace New Jersey is going now New Jersey doesn't have a Federal Reserve. It doesn't have a quantified, it doesn't have easing going on. It doesn't have QE. The state of New Jersey just has a ability to tax farm, and revenue is getting lower and lower. So please, I'll turn it over to Jim. Jim, will you please explain the research you've done and show the actual numbers? Now, and I just want to say, though, this isn't just some accounting trick. This isn't just like looking at balance sheets versus income statements and juggling the numbers. What we're seeing here is a tanking. This is almost like you got no income, but you got mortgage, you got taxes, you got credit cards, you got bills, you got debt collectors. That's the state of New Jersey. Bill, you want to take it from there? I'm sorry, Jim, you want to take it from there?
So thanks, Joe. So I just want to start out with the debt clock. This is the U.S. debt clock, but it's actually, they do a state version of it for each of the 50 states. You can see New Jersey's debt right here is at 95, and these numbers that you see, $95 billion. This is not counting what we owe for pensions and healthcare liabilities for retirees, and that's why this number right here is only at 10,693. But I want to point this out because this is a legitimate source. You can see the amount of debt that New Jersey is carrying. That's just on the normal debt that we carry, that we don't, for not having a balanced budget year after year after year after year. So you take that number and then you look over at Truth in Accounting. And if you look at them, Truth in Accounting, by the way, before I go any further, actually, let me talk about them. Truth in Accounting is a nonprofit that's been around for almost a decade, I think over a decade now. You'll note that they have a significant team. This is not a small group of people who have some type of political agenda. Their only agenda is holding public institutions, public governments accountable for the finances that they have. So it's not just the federal government, it's also the state governments and the town governments. In fact, they are such a large organization that they cover much of all the U.S. They cover the U.S. government, but they also, and all 50 states, and they also pick at the 75 worst states and the 75 worst cities and the 75 best cities in the union. So they're not a fly-by-night organization by any means. They have been compiling for years numbers on the states, and for this state, for the state of New Jersey, in the 2020 financial realm, September 2020, you'll note that New Jersey is again got an F, and we are ranked 50 out of 50. Now, I would like to say that that's just because of Murphy, but it's not. And I'll dive into the numbers in a moment. But I want to point out this picture right here.
So some of the smartest financial analysts and some of the smartest business analytics and accounting people in America, who have nonpartisan, no axe to grind, all collectively say New Jersey's finances suck, the worst in the nation. All right.
That's very true. That's very true. And if you look here, I'd like to say it was just because of Murphy, but it actually predates Murphy. And you'll look at this calendar right here. It's 2009 is where it starts at. Keep an eye on Illinois, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Notice which states do not leave the picture going through 2010, 11, 12, all the way through to 2019.
Yeah.
Those three blue states, and that's something that we'll talk about in a minute with Matt about the policies of the blue states that have bankrupted our state in New Jersey and actually made it even worse than bankrupt. Because if you look at the numbers for New Jersey, there's $189.6 billion needed to pay out all the bills that we have right now between the debt from year to year, the health care benefits for the retirees, and also the pension retirees that have been not funded. Let's give some
perspective at 190 billion. 190 billion. Most countries in the world, their GDP doesn't come near to 190 billion. And that is what New Jersey owes its own people with debt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's $59,900 per taxpayer. So each of the three of us have to pay out $58,000 per person in order to recover that debt.
So debt isn't always a bad thing. Everybody knows debt means leverage. Everybody knows debt means you're more valuable to investors, because the idea that you owe people money means that more people will chip in to save your ass if it goes down. So whenever a private equity firm goes out and says they're gonna invest in a portfolio, a portion of it is direct investment. And then they have a portion where they divide the debt up amongst a lot of stakeholders. So this way, if things go south, they can go to the debtors and say, hey, if you want your money back, you got to bail us out. So debt is important. However, what's interesting in this case is this debt isn't to stakeholders. This debt is to the people. This is pension funds. This is salaries. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. It's salaries. It's people's livelihoods. It's what people, the money that's being paid out is used. People are living on it. It's this must be paid. These are bills that must be paid. My opinion on it is with the we're just spending too much money. The state, I think you said earlier that revenues are falling short. But our revenues are. I mean, we're taking a lot of money. We just spend way, way, way too much. And as far as the pension goes, I mean, I don't see a way continuing this. I don't see how this gets any better. I don't think we bring more people into it. It just kind of grows it. It just makes the gaps bigger. I don't see any way out of it other than to end it. That's what I think. I think, just saying earlier, if we offer a better salary to teachers, to transit workers, to whomever, and let them at that point fund their own retirements as a normal salary and get rid of the pension system, they can have a better salary. And at the same time, we're only paying people that are actually working. We're not paying them for 20 years and then paying them for the 20 years that they're retired while they're also working somewhere else. It's just so it's baffling to me how we continue to keep doing this. We continue to keep throwing all this money, and then we continue to keep actively bringing more people into this system because it just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah, to your point about the $14 billion, that is money that, because of the lack of preparing for the rainy day fund, every state should have one. But for the New Jersey's lack of preparing for it because they don't have the money, because they're already borrowing in order to cover what fabulous, amazing, and giant, sarcastically I'm saying, programs that they have out there for everybody. because they're using so much of the money to cover, so much debt to cover those programs, there is no rainy day fund. And so consequently, we're looking at coming to the end of this pandemic where we're going to lose $14 billion in tax revenue projected because of all the lack of preparing, the incredible continual turning to the left of the aisle for the left wing ideas that are meant to provide so many things to make a bigger government. So all because of those ideas, that gets to the sanctuary state, that gets to putting more of a burden on the taxpayer, the taxing of rain, all these programs, the unfunded mandates to the counties and to the state. All of this builds on top of one another, and there's never any real relief that is provided for the taxpayer, or just to lower the taxes, because we have too high of a burden and we have too high of a demand for the taxes. So that's $14 billion for that. But I also want to point out the unfunded pensions and the unfunded healthcare is 172.5. So the total bill is 189. But just to Joe's point, what is owed to the future retirees and to all the retirees that are on the pension plan, which is a whole another issue, that's 172.5 billion that is unfunded right now. That's irresponsible. It's a $225.6 billion nut. That's what the whole nut is right now. And only $53.1 billion of it has actually been funded. It's ridiculous. It's outrageous. So we're in a deep hole with that. The other numbers that we can talk. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I'm gonna say something here that may not sound 100% conservative. In times of crisis, in times of anything, the government spend money. That's what we want them to do. Is we want them to spend money wisely, which obviously New Jersey is not doing. Now, a government needs to bring in revenue. The money just doesn't vaporize out of thin air like the Federal Reserve does for the country. So it's interesting. I'm looking now at the 2021. I'll post it in a second. I'll figure out a way to get on there, Jim. You walk me through it. Here's New Jersey's revenue for 2021. Ad valorem tax. We all know ad valorem taxes. That means on goods and services. That's $18 billion. Social insurance is $15 billion. Income taxes is $19 billion. From businesses and other, so I mean this is probably taxes on businesses, $7 billion, and fees and charges, $6 billion. So this is a state that is entirely dependent on taxation for income, and it is not the state itself does not have an ability to produce revenue or bring revenue into the state that can feed these taxes to a point to pay out that debt. So when you look at the GDP of New Jersey, what'd you say our debt was?
Our debt is 57. The total debt is $189.6 billion.
Right. So at a GDP of 688.9, you're looking at that debt being, holy cow, well over a quarter of the GDP, which is nuts. That's unsustainable. I
agree. Right now, the U.S. unemployment, the New Jersey unemployment is at 7.5, which is 1.4% higher than the national average. And that gets to, just to go back to what you're saying about spending money, that's the rainy day fund that all states have to differing degrees, but New Jersey didn't have one of any substance. And, you get into that moment where you need to spend money, just like you do in your own house. The roof, you need a new roof, you need a new boiler, you have a backup. That's what that money's for. When in times of crisis, you can call on that rainy day fund. Now, New Jersey is notorious for not having one because they're spend some more. When you're out of money, you just spend some more. So you take out another $10 billion loans like Murphy did over the summer.
Well, that's kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah, what's New Jersey's loan?
I'm sorry, Joe?
What are New Jersey's loans? Murphy is taking out loans to the state to pay the state to basically put good money after bad. What's he going to do now to pay off those loans, and who is he giving those loans to?
I think those are both big question marks. I think the loan was just taken. I don't even know. I think the complaint is they don't know where the money's going yet.
Right. So you can see on the
screen, so if I own a bond in the state of Jersey,
the bottom line is you're on the hook for all that. You might not get your money. What happens when the state does declare bankruptcy? If the state can declare bankruptcy, that's something that's still up in the air. Will the state declare bankruptcy? You can see the debt that we have.
That depends on when. I mean, what we do have is a federal government that will always bail out states. At least we think they will. I mean, the federal government has consistently been bailing out states since Johnson's Great Society. So here's what kind of set all this into motion. You're all familiar with Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society program, right?
Mm-hmm.
What Johnson did in the 60s is he wanted to do another New Deal. And he said, look, he told the states, he goes, the United States government, and this is what led to America getting off the gold standard. He says, the United States government will fund the infrastructure and all the things that are important for the state. We got you. You're going to get federal money. On the condition, this will free up the states to do welfare-based programs, which was his Great Society, is that nobody's going to be without something. Everybody's going to have food. Everybody's going to have a home, et cetera, et cetera. Didn't work out quite like he wanted. In fact, I think some of his last words were, this is kind of a rough quote, but I remember he is, my lady of a great society was destroyed by the horror of Vietnam, because the Vietnam War consumed so much attention, he couldn't get his Great Society done. So because it was implemented so poorly, the states now have this government money coming in, and they don't have to answer. That's a good question. What is New Jersey's slice of federal government aid? Because all the states have it, but they do get a chunk of it. So who did the states answer to? And this is why Trump came under controversy. He's like, I'm going to withdraw money from academia. There's money I'm giving the states to put into their colleges. If their colleges are going to be doing this hurting free speech, I'm going to take their funding. But now it's gotten, and people were protesting. It's like, how dare the federal government take funding from our schools? Well, if your school's not doing free speech, if your school like Evergreen University in Olympia, where they kicked all the white people off campus, they did that, right? Evergreen University in Olympia, Washington. They actually kicked all the white people. And then a professor who happened to be Jewish said, this is wrong. You guys shouldn't be doing it. They surrounded him in his office and threatened him. They threatened him with bodily harm. It's all over YouTube. You don't have to prove it. You can just look it up.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mm-hmm. So what do we do now with a federal government that is the slave to the states, that has to give these states this money to manage their infrastructure? And then the states themselves are becoming unaccountable. Not the states themselves, New Jersey and Connecticut, Massachusetts, as we saw here, but New Jersey's the worst, is becoming completely unaccountable. And then you have governors go out and getting loans. So imagine this. I'm a trust fund baby. My daddy's rich. My daddy gives me a huge allowance every month. So not only am I blowing that allowance, not only am I running up debt, I'm not even paying my bills. That's the state of New Jersey.
Right.
Yep.
So
we're mooching off the other states. We hear that comment all the time from Gottheimer that the moocher states are pulling out of New Jersey, but it's quite the opposite.
Oh, it's totally the opposite. That's the biggest leftist lie in the world. Yeah. The state with the biggest taxes is if you look at the U.S. Department of Treasury's revenue, it's a little over a third to almost 40%, which is actual income tax. Most of revenue of the United States is just us printing money and giving it out. And like we've seen in the last podcast, our dollar is going to stay strong. It's a mutually supporting cycle. As long as we're providing freedom of the seas and satellite architecture in space, as long as we're providing world stability, our dollar is going to be valuable. When we start losing the ability to provide stability from the world, that's when we're screwed.
So I would say
that target's up. Target's up in China.
The moocher comment, I would also say that if you look at the states that really get most of the money from the federal government, a lot of that is connected to already federal bases, federal programs that they have in there. Like, for example, Virginia. Maryland, get an enormous chunk of the pie. It's not because there's a great need in Virginia or Maryland. It's because they are the areas right outside the capital where is all that money being spent, where all the people who are living, working in the city, working in the Washington D.C., the ones who are depending on its resources, all that money is flowing out of Washington D.C. into those states. That's I do think that has a lot to do with why other states get a bigger chunk. There's a lot of other factors too, but
Washington D.C. is now replaced every state. Washington D.C. right now is the fastest growing megatropolis in America. Government money is now the industry of America. We are now Rome. Rome became what happened in Rome is the Roman coin, the emperor's coin, became the industry of Rome. Now, right now, the industry of America is the dollar. It is not what we produce. It is not what we grow. It is not our intellectual capital. Our America's product is the dollar, and that dollar stays valuable for what our military and our government services do.
Did you see that the Federal Reserve is considering cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I did a great seminar as part of my MBA with cryptocurrency. We go into the city and they bring all these guys from all over. They bring cryptocurrency investors. They bring a Canadian economist who was really smart guy. And then they brought they bring the socially liberal people who think cryptocurrency is going to revolutionize the world and make us all commies and all Age of Aquarius, all this crazy stuff, right? But the ultimate thing that the people brought up is this. When the cryptocurrency becomes a legitimate currency of governments, at that point, it is no longer valuable. Why do you want to use cryptocurrency? Now, other than investing it because it's going up and I'm going to make money, why do you want to use cryptocurrency? Well, there's no accountability of it. If you're into human trafficking, cryptocurrency is a great thing. If you're a drug cartel, cryptocurrency is awesome. It's a great place to wash your money. Hey, you take the money you've got gains, you buy Bitcoin. Nobody knows because nobody can track it. Then you sell your Bitcoin. Hey, that's just my investment in Bitcoin. It's so easy to wash money. But once cryptocurrency and once they make it, so you have to, it's now a government coin. At that point, why have it? At that point, it's just digital currency like anything else.
Right.
One thing though with the digital currency that kind of scares me is the power that it has, where it can be taken away from you at that. They
already have that power. If you're using a bank, they already digital money is digital. If you
but I know that they do, but it can go even farther and easier with that.
There's also
you don't want to ban and this is something that I know that comes out of, I know we're talking about New Jersey, but with the cryptocurrency and what they do over in China with the social whatever they call it.
I'm muting myself. My calls are going off.
Yep.
Your social network score,
your social scores and you're actually tied to your medical record. You're overweight, so we don't, you can't go buy booze, you can't buy beer. We're not letting you. Your money's not going to be good there. Like those are the things that I see coming down the line with stuff like cryptocurrency. It's just
that's a good point. It's also anytime, it's just like the stock market. You could lose your investment like that. It drops, you're out. But Joe, I want to mention, you were talking about what do we do about the states and the debt. My brother and I talked about having from a local standpoint, if you have like the type of people who are like the counties, like Sussex County, Warren County, if they decide, it's happening right now in Oregon, where the counties are banding together and talking about moving to Idaho. If they can extend the property line, I guess the state line from where it is now with Idaho through those different parts of the state into to get most of Oregon, big chunk of Oregon, they would then be able to take back their state or actually join in with Oregon. It's not a super easy issue, but it really would become easier in 2022 when there's a friendly Congress, because with the projection of us taking back the Congress in 2022, that could be something that's truly viable, where the states that have all these big red sections like like we have here in Warren County, Sussex County, large chunks of Morris County and Hunterdon and Passaic and all of our big chunks. There's no reason why we can't petition to not make our own state, but join a different state.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything in the Constitution that allows for that stuff, but
no, there is. It's nothing that says. Well, I should say this way. There's nothing that says it says specifically you can't create a new state. But we're not talking about creating a new state. We're talking about leaving this one, just like West Virginia. So you could do a West Virginia model. West Virginia, you broke away from Virginia, and it became its own state because the government of Virginia was not acting constitutional. So if you can find a reason for the state of New Jersey not to be acting constitutional, then you actually have a reason to go around the state legislature to get out of it. I think that's what I discovered, because that's really the big example, and the Supreme Court confirmed that, because the state of Virginia said after the war, said, whoa, you took our state, you took our big chunk of our state away, and the Supreme Court said, whoa, too bad, it was done, and that's the way it is. You now have to live it. They set a precedent in 1870 with that. So it is possible even to create to go around it with the extenuating circumstances. And most importantly, if you have a Congress that is supportive of the idea, which we would have it. Think about it. There's at least two congressional districts that would go toward, that's 2 electoral votes that would go to Pennsylvania. This would be the way to combat the Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., and them looking to make these electoral votes.
That'll set a precedent.
Yeah. No, I mean,
imagine if Sussex, Warren, and Hunterdon go over to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, or for that matter, the large number of Republican conservative areas such around the country that are saddled by big states. Because
Eastern Washington wants to go to Idaho. Eastern Washington talks about going to Idaho. Eastern Oregon talks about going over to another Western state.
Northern California.
Yeah. Oh, Northern California actually was trying to secede. They were going to call it the state of Jefferson, but guess when their vote was held? December 7th, 1941.
Yeah.
A little distraction. For those in the audience who don't know history, that's the day Pearl Harbor was attacked and the United States entered the Second World War. Yeah. So, that's the date they were going to hold that vote to say they wanted to secede from the rest of California. Now, if Northern California were to secede, you would have devastation in Southern California because all their water comes from the north. The state is fed. Yeah, it's the Shasta region, all that. That's where their water is. So if they leave, they're going to charge a premium to the rest of the state to pay for water. So California is in a pickle if they were to lose the north. And the north does want to leave because I love out west. I've been out west a lot. Northern California is a different world to Southern California. It is night and day. You really feel like you've gone into a completely different land. Northern California is hunting, shooting, outdoor sports, a lot of freedom.
Right. It's Sussex County.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Warren,
it's Sussex County. Yeah. I saw on one website somebody said they live in Sussex County. I heard a lot of somebody up here shooting. I go, this is Sussex County. What do you think they're doing? Go outside your front porch. There's all kinds of places where you can go shoot.
The state trooper told me that they get calls all the time where people are complaining about hearing shots, and they're like, "End? You're shooting in your backyard?" Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a long shot. I'm not saying it's a sure thing. I'm not saying there wouldn't be a constitutional test, but that is an option. And the really big thing is getting a nice, sizable majority in the 2022 election. And you don't need the president to back you up on it. You need a friendly Supreme Court, and you also need a friendly Congress.
Jim, is such a dramatic thing is reshaping the states even necessary when you can have a Democrat? I mean, Jordan wrote an article on Fox today. It was phenomenal, basically telling the left to watch out because we're going to take back the House and we're going to take back the Senate, and that's the Republicans' focus, and I think they will. I really think they will. If you
it may actually happen from these audits too.
Oh yeah. Oh, once they I'm telling you, they just start the elections. We're going to provide voter ID. The Democrats will never win another election again. As much as they try to marginalize it and say it doesn't matter, okay, then it's still it. And then they freak the hell out because they know they'll never win another election again. So does it matter to restructure the states? If you have the House and you have the Congress, and you can even do a 2/3 override for vetoes, do you even need to restructure? Congress
long term it needs to be fixed, because right now the way we're looking at right now, it's so easy to steamroll these elections. Just look at Sussex County. We're struggling to get rid of a guy who doesn't represent Sussex County. He doesn't represent Warren County. He doesn't represent three-quarters of the landmass of the area that he covers. Yet he's still going to hold it for, he held it for how many years? 4 terms now. He's up to 3 or 4 terms. That's unacceptable. He doesn't represent.
The districts do not outline the popular will at all. They accuse Republicans of gerrymandering. Jesus Christ. I mean, the New Jersey's districts are completely out of whack in terms of representing. The New Jersey's districts aren't structured along the lines of Republican and Democrat at all. So, I mean, they're designed to basically crush the Republican vote. However, I mean, you'd have seen Pallotta win if not for Bergen County. Pallotta lost because of a traitor Republican county. Bergen County turned on him. Had Bergen County GOP backed Frank Pallotta, he'd be the congressman right now.
Yep.
So when this is what's going on. New Jersey was red all through the 90s. I've been doing some research. It's incredible. When I was a kid, I was in New York City, but I remember New Jersey was red. I remember New Jersey was where you go when you want to shoot your BB gun and do stuff and live out in the country. And if you're not going to the New Jersey Republican Party, which I'm a member of, the vice chair of a county Republican Party, it's our own fault. It's our own fault. We should have millions of dollars in the coffer. We should be bringing a message to the people. Right now, what's the message of our party? Our message is the Democrats are bad. That's our message. Why are they bad? Well, we talk about the Constitution. We talk about civil liberties. We talk about owning your own property. We sound like, in the play Julius Caesar, we sound like Brutus and Cassius. We get up in front of the mass of Rome and we talk about honor and the Republic and all. And the people are looking at us like, when are you going to give me bread? When are you going to give me money?
Right. Who cares what you're saying?
Up there, Mark Antony waves the bloody cloak. Mark Antony shows Caesar's will. He's going to give all these these to each Roman. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? Julius Caesar was the ideal Democrat politician. Ideal. He was brilliant. But that's how we sound. We sound like the stuffy-nosed. And then you look at our country club Republicans, who I don't even know why they're Republican, just because so they're not even on our side. The message we have to bring is that, number one, we can run a community better, which we can. You look at the Republican counties of New Jersey, and financially they're pretty sound. They're pretty tight.
Same with the cities of the country, too.
Yeah, and the cities of the country. Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, you rack and stack our cities. They're pretty tight. The Republican cities don't have the GDPs because we don't have the tax revenue because we don't have the large masses of people. But the big leftist argument, we get the most taxes, so we're really good. Well, no, the government subsidies, because you have a large population of people below the poverty line, another relic from Johnson's Great Society, that helps. You don't have, in Boise, Idaho, you don't have masses of people in poverty living in projects. So the federal government's not going to lay out a lot of money for Boise, Idaho. Newark, you do. So there comes all that money. Now, that money doesn't, unlike Johnson's Great Society, the intent was that money would then go back into facilitating jobs and a future for those people. But that didn't happen.
Nope.
Blue states just locked them up in projects, screwed their educational system, and ruined them for generations.
It's exactly right. We have it's just generation after generation after generation of welfare, of bad schools, of no jobs, of bad neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And it's all done by design.
Well, because the Democrats will say, "Oh, it's racist." You're saying that. You're saying it's racist because you just don't like them because the majority of these people have to be brown or Hispanic or whatnot. No, it's not racist. They're in an economic cycle that is based on the fact that they can't break out of it. Hey, and I don't blame them. Okay, I grew up in a project house. My family's on welfare. I'm on a project house. I'm gonna leave that shelter to go get a minimum wage job. I'm gonna leave that sanctuary to go try for something I'm probably gonna fail at because I don't have an education or a skill. And this is the problem. This is the ultimate failure of the Great Society. The failure of the Great Society was it herded all these people who are coming in from the Depression era countryside. It herded them into the cities. It says, hey, we're going to build projects for you. We're going to give you a dole. And then the next step was, okay, now you got these great schools. Now we're going to give you trades. You have all this industry around you to go to work. Now what the Democrats say is, oh, it's because the racist white people wouldn't give them a job. It's not the case at all. That's not the case at all.
People were incentivized to go into that. And they need to be incentivized to come out of it. The
incentive should have been they should have had their own industries. They should have had their own markets. They should have had their own job markets. That should have been the incentive. When you see people rioting in a neighborhood and they're very mad that people from another ethnic background or country own all the stores and own all the businesses.
Yeah, enter all the Asian hate.
Yeah.
Joe, to your point, back in the 70s, there was a big movement within the we moved away from the idea of a trade school and we moved more towards a college. College education is going to get you to a good paying job. But what they did is they replaced the trade school with the idea of going to college. And in so doing, prior to that, many of the minority families around the country, and don't forget, the reason why Martin Luther King Jr. was able to do so well with his traveling, who paid for that? It was all the middle class black families that were able, from the churches, that were able to put money forward in order to help them pay for it. Why did they have jobs? Why were they doing so well? Because they were tradesmen. They were the plumbers. They were the carpenters. They were the mechanics. And so they had all that. They had that money, but because of the Great Society, because of what came after Martin Luther King Jr., that they took away these trade schools and they said, go to college. But by doing so, they took away their opportunity to earn a job.
And how are you going to get to a college when your public school is utter garbage?
Then they took away the educational ability. Yes.
So
now they just lowered and they just constantly lower standards in order to make that end result happen.
The New York City public school system used to be the ideal for the world. When my father went in the 1930s, my father was born in 1925. He was an Italian immigrant. The kid came from Italy. The New York City public school systems, they picked the best and brightest. They educated the kids and they raised you up. My dad ended up going to Stuyvesant, Columbia, and Georgetown Medical School from a New York City public education with scholarships and the GI Bill. So if you had intellect, you flew. Here's a great story. I have I've tested out with an IQ very similar to my father. I was raised by my father. I failed horribly in New York City public schools. I got a master's and an MBA now, and I became a commissioned officer in the military, and I got more schools and credentials that line up. But when I was a kid and I was in intermediate school, I used to see kids throw their, I don't want to say what they used to take out of their pants, and they used to throw it at the teachers. We used to have hypodermic needles in the desk. We used to have teenage boys roaming the halls, screaming obscenities at the teachers. Fights were unbelievable. You didn't go to the bathroom between classes. You'd get jumped. And you learn how to fight really good. At the age of 11 and 12, I learned how to use a knife. Use a knife. Because I'm not going to have two 15-year-olds beat me up and do whatever to you in the bathroom. This was Egbert Intermediate School in Staten Island on Midland Avenue. And if you went there in the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. And the high school wasn't much different. A little bit better. But who were my teachers? They were all children from the 60s. They were all 60s children. They were all the old hippies. You had a combination of busing from the impoverished, from the projects into my schools, And you had all this confusion and this cultural malaise. And then you had teachers that they knew they'd get in trouble if they disciplined the class. And it went to hell. It went to hell in a handbasket. So when I was 14 and my family moved to Florida, and I go to a school where if you curse in class, you have to go to the teacher and they'd actually paddle you. You get corporal punishment. I was the New York kid, so I was getting my ass whacked like pretty often. But you see the difference. And we had blacks and whites in our school and Hispanics in our school, and but there was this code, there was this culture of hey, you're not going to curse at the teacher, you better not get out of line, or we will punish you. If you want to fight after school. Not this craziness I saw where three women would attack a man, three girls would attack a boy and try to pull the hair out of his skull right in the middle of the lunch break. I mean, that's what growing up on Staten Island, that's what growing up in these schools was. But that's how bad the public school system today, I understand, is still pretty ragged in New York City. But this is what our taxpayer dollars bring. This is how we're educating children. This is it. So, but nobody wants to say anything about it. This is what caused what people call the white flight. Everybody's like, Jesus Christ, I got to get the hell out of the city. Nobody stands their ground. I got to get the hell out of the city. We got to get the hell out of here. Let's move way out on Long Island. Let's move way out to Jersey. Let's leave this. Now the cities, which were supposed to be a sanctuary for the impoverished people, mostly the minorities that the LBJ was trying to take care of, now those cities become cesspools. And nobody with their right mind sends their kid to a public school in Manhattan or the Bronx or Brooklyn. And then you have cycles where they fix it a little bit. However, this is what Johnson's Great Society caused. It caused a dystopia of confusion and chaos that right now is just getting worse and worse and worse with all this ideological nonsense.
No, and I think one of the solutions, or one of the part of the solution, is if you're going to look at the schools. Our topic is taxes. How what's the biggest consumer of taxes in our local communities? It's schools. Yep. And I can tell you that not every student, no matter their skin color, no matter their background, no matter who they are, not every student should be going to college. They can have the opportunity, but they're not. We're setting them up for failure for the longest time.
You make more money in a trade than you will most professions.
I agree 100%. The best man at my wedding is a plumber. Has 2 houses. It does far better. It makes 3 times my salary, and I have a master's. So I mean, you're not going to sell me. I'm already bought and sold.
This is the leftist nonsense. This is the Karl Marx nonsense. Karl Marx was all about this kind of stuff. This is the Marxist nonsense. It's this. Let's take what used to be the purview of the elites, which was a classical education, and we got to distribute it to everybody.
Right.
You know what? If somebody has an act for the classical education, by all means.
Well,
If you went back to ancient Athens, I seriously doubt that every kid in Athens was getting taught by Socrates. I seriously doubt that. No. I'm pretty sure most of them were learning to be stonemasons and butchers. And right now, you know what a butcher makes? I wish I was a butcher right now. Butchers making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And you can hardly find a decent USDA butcher. And if you do, the queues like you wouldn't believe. We're committing culture. We're committing suicide as a civilization.
Well, and the other side of the trades, you're right. It is committing suicide, because what we're doing is we're with this idea that you can go off to college, or that that's what you should be doing instead of exploring other avenues of education. When you're doing that, you're also limiting them. You're setting them up for failure. But then if somebody, no matter the color of their skin, again, minority or whatever your background, these people are able to now, these children are able to pick their future. Once you become a tradesman, once you learn a trade, for example, whether it's welding, whether it's auto mechanic, no matter whether it's cutting people's hair, you are now portable. You don't have to be stuck where you are. You can now take your trade and go to the other side of the country, or the other side of the world for that matter, and you can learn. And why depend on somebody else to fix your stove when you can do that yourself? Why depend on somebody else to fix your car when you can do that yourself? Beside the fact that it builds personal responsibility, and also the idea that you build personal confidence in yourself. I've accomplished this. I can do this. It's a lot easier to build and to make something than to struggle reading something when you are dyslexic or when you can't put the words together, or when you grew up not knowing how to spell, some word like technical. You can't spell it, but you should be able, but using your hands, you can figure out how to make something work with your hands. And so we're really discounting these kids on their abilities, and we're also trapping them into the cities.
Mm-hmm. Trapping into the city, but you're also, and another thing with going to college, you're just saturating that market. You're depriving. That's why you can't. A tradesperson is so hard to find right now. A huge demand. Even like truck drivers. They're like you want you get one of those truck drivers that you do the long distance ones. These guys are making $130,000 a year. They leave their house on a Monday morning. They're not back until Friday. But some of them are making that much money and a lot more. You're pushing these kids to go into college and to spend, and the business that's there as well, because you don't see the colleges stopping any of it, because they're charging whatever they like, because the government's just backing up every.
It's ridiculous with the loans.
And they're going in there, and then they're coming out with a degree something in social justice issues. Like, what do you expect to make with how do you expect you to support yourself on intergender studies of whatever?
You're not most college majors you're not going to support yourself on. And there's so many colleges now, and there's so many degrees now. You can have, all right, when I graduated from college in my BA, everybody got a job. This was 1997. Everybody got a job. And I know guys who can't add numbers like you wouldn't believe. They got an accounting degree. They got a job at Morgan Stanley in the city. Everybody got jobs when I graduated from college. Me, I went back into the military pipeline and got a commission. But everybody got a job. Now, my God, you get people with MBAs that can't find jobs. It is now gotten to the point now where it's so bizarre. The whole work culture is so bizarre that you could be expertly qualified in a million ways. And, we interviewed this person and Bill says he's a no. I mean, it's now become like a reality TV show to get hired, to go to work, whatever. Amazon, where I work, has the best one. They're not allowed to ask you any questions, but a bunch of behavioral questions. And it's just behavioral questions that are the same for everybody. It's actually a pretty good hiring system. There isn't this random stuff that people can just come up with. Like, if you saw the Bluetooth dinosaur and it shit on your house, what would you do? It isn't like that. So, or if you had a customer who, dropped dead in the middle of talking to your sales pitch, I mean, it isn't like that. It's a little bit more structured. But that's the culture we have now. And to tie it back around, it is when you see that this is our culture, when you see that this is what the baby boomers have brought us. I mean, you see Phil Murphy, who is, who's an investment banker. He's supposed to be a financial genius, right? He's the best bank, biggest bank in the world, and he was a boss at that bank. So he goes and he's now the treasurer for the Democratic Party. By the way, that was bankrupt after the Hillary Clinton election. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Democratic Party was really jacked up financially after Clinton lost that election. That was Murphy running the Democrat Party. He ran that treasury up until then. Now he's running. Now he's got Jersey, which is a financial problem to begin with. Yeah. So how is we solving New Jersey? All right, what multinational corporations are coming to New Jersey to do business?
None.
All right. Who's investing in New Jersey's infrastructure other than Prudential, who's in New Jersey and who has stock bonds of New Jersey, and New Jersey basically gives all kinds of exemptions to? Who else is and Prudential just basically developed a little part of Newark. They basically took a little part of Newark and made it a green zone and said, it's nice in this place for our employees to walk around. Look how we're inventing Newark. And you go outside that green zone and you're in, So who's coming in? Who's coming into New Jersey? Where's Deutsche Bank? Where's Bank of Switzerland?
No.
Who's coming to New Jersey to build low-income housing that is so precious to Murphy? Who's coming to invest in the state? I don't know. I've been looking all over the internet. I can't find anybody.
No, this is the way it is.
Yeah, it is. That is the way it is. Nobody's coming, and people and people are leaving.
Yeah, if I was New Jersey, and I went to Pennsylvania and I said, look, guys, what do you say you guys throw $10 billion into the state in these projects we're doing, and we're going to give you a return on investment year after year after year, what would Pennsylvania probably say? I think they tell us to go to hell. Like, we don't want to party, you guys. We don't want to party.
Yeah. No,
we don't
you
want
know
to party
what?
your fines and your unions and your taxes and your nonsense and your bickering and we don't want to part of that.
Now, recently, getting back to what the governor has working for him. He had the head of the Department of Education, who is a big job in the state of New Jersey. He was a guy who ran Asbury Park, and I've talked about this guy before. Per student, $45,000 is what they were spending per student. $45,000, right? We talked about that during the last show, I think. But what I didn't mention is he spent millions and $20 some million to put in a all turf field in Asbury Park. Why did he do that? Because he wanted to he wanted a blue field for them to play on, which is the school colors. But instead of spending the $20 million on that, what if he spent $20 million on tech schools, on building the base or the technology schools that are going to get these kids to learn the technology to bring in those big corporations that you were just talking about, Joe? Why won't he invest the money that way?
Who puts crazy people like that in these responsible positions? This
Exactly.
goes back to the whole hiring culture. I couldn't imagine a garrison commander of an army installation wanting to spend that much money on changing the color of a field. I think he would be a laughingstock if he did something.
Then he's now in charge of Kane University. He's the president of Kane University.
Well, the real skill in this era is navigating socially and navigating connections. That's the real skill in this era.
Exactly.
We've seen a state now, the state of New Jersey, which we've seen the numbers, and it is an economic disaster. It's ranked 50 out of 50 consistently by bipartisan groups that do look for truth in accounting. We have a governor who is supposedly a banking genius, who has a track record of outside of Gold. I don't know what he did in Goldman Sachs. That seems pretty hush-hush. We know what he did and what his roles were, but about his performance, I don't know. But we do know Democratic Party, and then he went to be an ambassador, and then he went back to the state of New Jersey as governor. Both of them epic disasters financially. His attitude is because as a banker, he doesn't care. We said in the last podcast, he's not concerned with results or his people. He's concerned with his board of directors and what his board of directors thinks of him. And his board of directors is the Democratic Party and the leaders in the Democratic Party. So New Jersey is going downhill financially. There is no effort to bring in money or investments or economic stimulus from abroad. There's no effort to make New Jersey a greater state to do business in. None at all. In fact, businesses are leaving New Jersey en masse. The only way they don't leave New Jersey is if they're like a homeowner who is can't sell the house. He's in the red. I'm stuck here anyway. I can't leave no matter what. However, it is a great place to live for a number of reasons. So if you are making money in the state, it's a great place to be because you have access to everything, and all right. You have great culture. You have great food. You have great nature. Nobody knows about the nature of New Jersey. It says beautiful parks, great areas, farmlands. Schools are phenomenal. I mean, New Jersey has a lot going because it stands on the shoulders of giants. It stands on the shoulders of the people who built the capital and built the infrastructure. And now, we're turning it over because, like any civilization in decline, we let the Muppet Show take over.
Exactly put. Exactly well put.
Yeah.
It is the Muppet Show because not only does he hire someone like that former commissioner that I mentioned, but he also has a whole set of sex scandals from people in his campaign when he was running. I don't know if you remember hearing about that. And I'm not versed enough in the details, but I know that is something that's been plaguing him from his 2017 run.
Have you heard his lieutenant governor speak?
No.
Well, listen to her speak. It's almost like Maxine Waters level.
Wow.
It's almost like Maxine Waters level. Yeah. And when you look at appointees, and who they put in bureaucratic positions, it's a very nepotistic reward system. New Jersey's a sick nepotistic reward system. I mean, there's always nepotism. I mean, hey, look, you want Joe to run this great organization? I want to bring my boys in because I trust my boys. I got it. But my boys better be qualified. My guys better be able to do it. But when I'm bringing a guy in and I'm putting him in charge of something and he's 22 years old and he's never done anything before, but he did some political stuff for me, and now he's going to get 120 a year. Yeah, I'm talking about somebody in Sussex County.
Who's talking about there?
Yeah, the Democrat.
What's the word, man?
Democratic Party. The director, 22 years old, gets $120,000 a year job running the DMV. And he lost Sussex County for the Democrats. Sussex County went Republican in the election, but nevertheless,
Sussex County we are solidly Republican. We're aging, but we're solidly Republican.
And here's the thing: if the baby boomers, right? They are, even though there's technically more conservative baby boomers than liberal, their liberal element dominates their generation. Their liberal element trained the millennials, but there's no tell. I mean, Generation X is pretty solid conservative. I mean, we started out nihilistic, we don't give a damn, and now we're like the most right-wing guys in extreme America. But there's no telling where the millennials are going to go. There's no telling where the next generations are going to go.
I think you're seeing the younger generation now. I know, it's coming around. Whether they're registering as Democrat or Republican might be another thing, but I think they're getting a little bit more conservative. I remember my nephew. I remember when we went fishing and he was 17 at the time, and he brought up actually politics to me, which is a surprise. I didn't make mention of the conversation with him, but we're driving down, and he said he didn't want to. He doesn't know a lot about either of the candidates, and he just doesn't want to vote for somebody that just because his friends want to vote for him. He goes, and then he says, I don't want to vote for Trump just because all my friends are. And so I said, I was like, wait, what did you say? I said, wait, all your friends are voting for Trump? He goes, oh yeah, Uncle Matt. He's like, every kid in Ringwood's voting for Trump. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm just, but it's not like I have. And I, one of where I work out of high school, and there's a good group of bunch of kids there that are.
What the left is doing is so freaking crazy. I don't know how you can be a man and still be in line with them. I mean, they're saying we're sociopathic. They're saying we're monsters. They're blaming all the crimes on us. I mean, they want total subservience and compliance from men. Anybody can denounce us and we go to jail. I mean, there is a such, and it's interesting because the baby boomer male archetype is this, yeah, we're idiots, we're losers. The women know, they know. It isn't a chivalric archetype that the World War II generation had. And all you do when you flip on like Netflix and on the cultural message, and it's been going on since the 90s, the cultural message is the man is the buffoon, the man is the idiot, undermine the crap out of him, and how dare he think he knows what he's talking about. If you speak about something as a man, there's actually a term, it's called mansplaining. Yeah. Like, how dare you speak with authority on anything?
And there's also too, it's like, anything to be like, masculinity is frowned upon, the cultures. And I make a joke all the time with a couple of the ladies that I work with. We look out at the kids, and I'm just looking at them like, they're high school boys, and they have like pink rainbow backpacks with and they have like sparkly glitter shoes, and I'm like,
yeah. Well, I've been hearing about that. And they're wearing like jewelry, and they're basically trying to effeminize.
And themselves. I'm like, I had said to one of the people there, I'm like, what would have happened had you, when you were a kid, if you were going to meet your friends down at the
they'd beat your ass. What do you think?
I think, and I showed up with a pink bicycle that had rainbow tassels. I think I would have that bike would have been destroyed. Like I would have gotten beaten up, and my father would have been like, "What the hell are you riding down there with a freaking rainbow colored bicycle for?"
What we were doing
was just. But it's just like. You're masking. It's fine. It's totally fine for young boys to act like young boys and to do that. But they're pushed. It's pushed away from them. They're told it's bad. It has a big effect on them, and it really.
So Jordan Peterson makes a good point. He says in the societies that are the most where they try to stifle masculinity, you actually get the greatest or societies. He really zeroes in on Scandinavia. Societies that try to suppress gender identity the most actually get the greatest polarization.
Yeah. They said they let them. that where it was they wanted to make it so gender neutral that in Scandinavian, what he says is that they just went to the utmost extremes of the masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
Because that's what they.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if we brought back the old Boy Scouts? How many boys would flock to it?
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to do rappelling. We're going to shoot guns. We're going to learn how to cook a rabbit in the field. Oh, and then we're going to have boxing matches. Dude, you have every freaking boy in the city and everywhere. Hey, I'm in. No. Now we're going to talk about your gender identity. Are you really a boy, or do you think you're a girl?
It's
oh,
bad.
by the way, we're gonna go to the field with this guy who's really dresses like a woman. Come on, I mean,
it's forced. I was at a board of ed meeting about a year or so ago, and they did a presentation on something with some of the STEM classes, and one of the teachers, I guess, was running the program there, was kind of complaining or was very proud of the fact that a lot of her girls are taking these, that are getting into the STEM classes, STEM field, but she was just very upset because they're only picking the ones that are typically the field that the girls choose more. I don't remember what they were, but
I got a good story about it. But a guy. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, my comment to it was like, I said, is it a good thing, or are you upset that they're not going into the boys, or are you proud that they're getting into it and choosing what they want,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it was just more like it doesn't. But that's what like I said, it's all being forced upon them, and it's we talked about this the other day. It's postmodernism.
Oh yeah,
anything is true.
We knew a liberal guy posted on that we knew. He posted this is a sign of the patriarchy in a toy store because it had a girl's cleaning set with a broom and a mop and all, and it was pink and all that. And my wife's like, "Oh, get it for my daughter." And my daughter grabbed it and loved it. Man, she runs around. Hey, my daughter loves it.
Just be honest. You just need to start telling these people to honestly, just shut up. Nobody, just. That's
well, no, they're really sick. They're really sick. They've elevated mental illness to normalcy, and it's just like the story of the Valley of the Blind. The person who can see goes to the Valley of the Blind, and they're first they think it's amazing, and then they realize, hey, here's your problem. You got these two balls in the middle of your head, and they're making you confused. We're gonna rip them out of your head so you can be blind like us. That was a story I read in a book once, and that's the left. The left is like, if you don't see it our way, we're gonna rip out your eyes. Right. And this isn't the left of Marx, and they kind of follow Marx, but Marx himself was homophobic, racist, and very patriarchal. So Marx wouldn't have liked these guys at all.
Well, gentlemen, we're at an hour. Do you want to finish up with any last bits?
Yeah, the state of New Jersey. Go do your own research. Look at your state, wherever state you are. Go to Truth in Accounting website. Look at the way the state's spending money. Understand real economics, not economics and abstract theory. Look at the economics that's actually meaning what money is going into what pot and where is it coming from and how these governments are using it. Understand how this is in play, because I got news for you. All the stuff we're talking about in terms of social and cultural politics, all these are just simple manifestations and deceptions from where big money is moving. So that's how you have to look at it.
Very good.
Yep.
Matt?
Yeah, Joe just said it all comes down to how the money's being spent. We do not have a tax revenue problem anywhere in the country. We don't have a tax revenue problem. We have spending problems, and that's what that's what brings us to the issues that we're talking about here today.
If a state says, hey, we want a lot of cool stuff. We want the state of New Jersey where we have great hospitals, where we clean the roads, where all the stuff works. Well, that's not just keep raising taxes. That's bringing business and revenue into the state. That's what makes that run, not tax farming. Because when business goes, we go.
Yep. And you need to, you need to spend the money on what's coming in. Mm-hmm. And spending on what's important, and what's necessary for the state, mm-hmm. and that's it. You have as a number, you have 10 billion coming in. That's what your budget should be.
Well, and it also leads to the simple fact of when after the June primary, no matter the outcome, when you go in November to go vote, you should be thinking of these thoughts as you're walking in, because every single seat in the assembly, every single seat in the state senate, and the governor is up for re-election. And the only thing that's going to change the downward direction of the New Jersey economy and the New Jersey's financial status, the only way that's going to change is if we get new leadership in there that's going to vote Republican. You can't. I mean, it's a Democrat.
Republicans anymore.
It's a Democrat-controlled legislature. It's a Democrat-controlled governor. It's a Democrat-controlled Supreme Court. And the only way that's all going to change is if you start voting the other party in. And
this isn't the Republican Party of George Bush, who now paints portraits of the veterans he sent to get their limbs blown off and didn't do damn thing for the VA. The president that sent me to war we fought for, he didn't do anything for the VA. It was Trump who came to save the VA. This isn't the country club Republican anymore. This Republican Party is a serious machine that is hell-bent on making this a better society and promising us good government. This isn't a Republican Party that's all angry and gets their panties in a knot that the government's doing this or that. This is a government party that wants good government. This is a Republican Party that wants good government, wants efficient government, wants to stimulate business, and yet doesn't want people to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, and it doesn't want to leave unfunded mandates as well as unfunded pensions for all the workers.
Yeah, I mean, you work your life in a state, and the promise is you're going to get a pension. It's an important thing. Right. It's an important thing. Right. I mean, you're going to, especially a job that takes everything out of you.
Those pensions have to be paid, but we have to stop doing the pensions.
Well, you're right.
We need to bring business into the state. New Jersey needs to make money. All right, we got a great commercial fishing industry, but it's floundering in a lot of ways. Why? Why aren't we helping our commercial fishing industry? Why aren't we inviting big banks to invest in New Jersey? Why aren't we giving?
Because they're more interested in putting out wind farms, Joe, than taking care of your farm. Yeah, they're more interested in putting those out there than your fish. That's why they're more interested in that.
This state once was one of the best dairy farm states in the country. Now you can't find a dairy farm hardly. What happened to that? There's so many things that have gone wrong in this state because of bad government.
That's right. Anyway, so on that note, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you vote Republican in November because it's the only way to save our state. Yep. And thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
We'll head out now.
All right.
God bless.
God bless.